Receiver watch, because Schefter, our Kupp runneth over on wide receiver options for teams that are looking for him. Let's start with Devonte.
Well, it was 2 days ago that the Jets officially released him. It feels like it could have been 2 weeks ago. He's a free agent. He's able to visit wherever he wants. I think in a perfect world, he'd like to be on the West Coast. Think of the Chargers. Think of the Rams. Think of the 49ers. Maybe the Packers is a possibility, but he is a free agent. He does not have to wait until the new league year begins on Wednesday. He can get a deal done anytime before then. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Rams continue to try to find a new home for Cooper Kupp, who's not expected to be back with the Rams in 2025. They've acknowledged as much. The issue from moving on from him, is there a team out there that's willing to take on his contract? And the answer so far is no. This very well could wind up with the Rams releasing Cooper Kupp next week and him becoming a free agent in a very crowded wide receiver market. And the headline yesterday in the wide receiver field was that DK Metcalf told the Seattle Seahawks yesterday that he would like to be traded. He'd like to be traded to a contender. He'd like to be traded to a contender who's willing to give him a new deal. And that's where this gets a little complicated, because any team that wants DK Metcalf, and there will be any number of them, would have to compensate the Seattle Seahawks with the commensurate draft pick compensation and compensate DK Metcalf with a new deal. So if you are looking at this field of wide receivers that are out there, what you're asking yourself this morning, if you're in the front office, is would I rather trade, let's just call it a second-round draft pick, and pay DK Metcalf a deal in excess of $30 million a year, or would I go and prefer to go get Devonte Adams for less money, no draft pick compensation? Would I prefer to try to go get Chris Godwin or Cooper Kupp for less compensation? That's the decision that every front office has to weigh here moving forward in what is one of the deeper free agent wide receiver classes in terms of name value that we've seen in a while.
Oh, absolutely. In case you're wondering, DK Metcalf is 27 years old. I'll also add there does not appear to be a wide receiver in this year's draft class who's going to go probably in the first half of the first round. There are a bunch of good receivers, but there isn't one. There aren't these the Malik Neighbors.
There's probably going to be one. Teteroa McMillan from Arizona.
I'm not hearing quite as high in that, and Emeka Egbuka, and there are a bunch of other guys that we're going to see. They'll get drafted, but I don't know that there's a guy that's stepping in. Let's not get sidetracked into all of that. DK Metcalf, you're my receiving expert. Is he the difference for somebody? Is there a team out there that is DK Metcalf away from being a legitimate Super Bowl contender?
If we're going a DK Metcalf away, I would say the Kansas City Chiefs in those regards. If we're going to go going to the Super Bowl,
that would be bordering on unfair.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, I don't think there's any other team that you can put DK on their team and you can just say they're Super Bowl contenders outside of Kansas City.
Okay.
Now, I would like to see DK with the Dallas Cowboys because he is a different wide receiver than CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is the route runner, shiftier guy, quick and fast. Jitterbug. When you look at DK Metcalf, he's that physical, imposing wide receiver, can catch those 50-50 balls, going to block in the run game. So I would like to see him in Dallas. Will Jerry Jones pull the strings?
You see, it's fun to talk about the possibilities, but Jerry Jones once traded a boatload of draft picks to the Detroit Lions for Roy Williams and signed him to a big contract. It didn't work out. It's hard to imagine the Dallas Cowboys, with the holes that they have, going to spend $30+ million a year on DK Metcalf. Yes, would he fit there? Absolutely. Would he make a difference? Absolutely. But again, is that part of being selectively aggressive? And I think that's probably outside the realm of selectively aggressive.
I think that, you brought the point that you brought up. Not only do you have to, give a draft compensation, but the contract. I mean, for me personally, the Pittsburgh Steelers make a lot of sense. We talked about the first thing I said about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Move had the nerve to get a quarterback. That's Matthew Stafford is staying in Los Angeles. If you want to get one of these mid-tier quarterbacks, then how about upgrading the weapons around the quarterback? We know the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have George Pickens, that's it. No one else scares you on the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. How about bring another difference maker on the wide receiver position, so regardless of who you have at quarterback, they'll have better weapons to throw to?
You say regardless of who you have a quarterback. Well, right now they have nobody under contract at quarterback.
Right.
I mean, they don't have a quarterback under contract today.
Correct.
The new league year begins next week. Now they're working to get one of these deals signed with one of their players, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson. We'll see if they can get that done. But they don't even have a quarterback. So again, to go trade for a wide receiver when you don't even know who's throwing them the football right now, they need to upgrade their wide receivers. It's something that they've looked to do for a couple of years now. They need help at that spot as much as any team in the league. But they've got a few needs to address here, and it's hard to know exactly what you need when you don't even know the quarterback.
And Schefter, you mentioned just 3 of the names, but there are the wide receiver, the options out there for teams that want to sign wide receivers is pretty wide.
Well, look, there's a list of just some of the wide receivers out there, and that doesn't even include a group of other wide receivers. But if you want a free agent wide receiver, you can go sign right now Devonte Adams, Tyler Lockett. They're already free. Stephon Diggs next week, Chris Godwin next week. The potential trade targets, and by the way, these are trade targets.
Right.
Cooper Kupp is probably going to wind up being released next week. You could try to trade for DK Metcalf. T. Higgins has obviously been franchised.
Let's talk about T. Higgins. What's going to wind up happening with him? The Bengals have said they want to sign him and Jamar Chase. Is that going to happen?
They don't appear to be close on a deal with either one right now. Now, again, Jamar Chase is looking for $40+ million a year. T. Higgins is going to get $30+ million a year. Can you pay your quarterback in the 50s, Jamar Chase in the 40s, T. Higgins in the 30s, and still do what you need to field the rest? Now, they have a lot of cap space.
Well,
they've done a good job.
Jamar Chase is seeking again?
$40+ million.
Good Lord!
That was his
Good
response.
Lord.
But so what you're telling me is what happens if they don't work out a deal? Does T. Higgins wind up playing on the franchise tag again this year?
I got to be honest with you. He was on the franchise tag last year. I thought there was a real chance that wouldn't happen, that he would sit out the first 6-7 games, report to have that contract be fulfilled, and then become a free agent. He did it last year. I think there were people surprised across the league. To count on that happening for a second straight year, I think would be a bit ambitious.
Right.
We'll see how it plays out. We really don't know whether they're going to be able to get a long-term deal done, whether they're going to be open to trading him, or how this is going to play out now.
So, I mean, I would put that at the top of the list of most intriguing possibilities with wide receivers, but there are.
Rồi mình sẽ cắt ngắn bớt dây đi một chút. Ok rồi. Sẽ được một cái hình như thế này. Rồi làm thêm một cái dây treo ở trên này nhé. Dây treo ở trên đấy thì mình sẽ dùng màu cam đi. Dùng màu cam mình làm. Mình chập 2 đầu vào là 1. Đây mình chập vào. Đấy, được cái phần như này. Bây giờ mình sẽ móc cái dây treo. Móc dây treo vào nhé. Đây móc vào. Móc hết phần này vào nhé.